Buy things at here websites.com. Buy things.
It's 11:59 to Radio Free America. This is Uncle Sam with music and the truth until dawn. Right?
Buy things at.
It's 11:59 to Radio Free America. This is Uncle Sam with music and the truth until dawn. Right now, I've got a few words for some of our brothers and sisters in the occupied zone. The chair is against the wall. The chair is against the wall. John has a long mustache. John has a long mustache. It's 12 o'clock, Americans, another day closer to victory. And for all of you out there on or behind the lines, this is your song.
Buy things at here websites.com.
And welcome everybody to our Daily Gun Show. We come to you live every weeknight at midnight Eastern, which is our time slot. Every other time slot that infringes on this time slot is quarking. And we talk about guns, not fear, not shaking fists at the way things are, not ignoring history or cycles of human nature, but instead talking about guns, the things that can be and should be unifying thing that brings people together to grow and to go forward and to learn and to share and whatnot, and hopefully to set an example and lead the way for other elements of society that might not have the same kind of unifying foundation that we've got with guns and the rights protected by our Second Amendment. We've got a way that we can talk seriously about something, and like I say, that gives us a common ground that other communities, probably outside of religion, aren't going to get, right? So that's what this show is all about, talking about real gun stuff. So topics aren't necessarily scripted, but I guess definitely would say that there are certain topics that aren't going to be tolerated. We're not going to be puppets of the media, the three-letter networks that are going to tell you or me what we're going to talk about. So instead, let's talk about guns, man. I'd like to do, oh, thank you very much. So somebody listen to our subliminal robot.
Buy things at here websites.com.
Guys and gals.
That's our store. So we've got that hooked up to this phone here. And when somebody buys something, it goes over there and it makes a little noise. It sounds like cash register. So yeah, appreciate that very much. Don't have it. All the sales that came in have been through Gary's show and now this one. So we'll do the same deal. If you're been to the rally in DC last year, then when you buy a 2020 patch, let me know, and I'll send you the 19 patch as well, so that you've got one from last year. And then Free Patch Friday is the Every Second Matters, since it's Every Second Matters, right? So we're going to be doing some fun stuff in the future here, but I guess we'll start out with the lecture on what this show is all about. So we're on episode 1100. I don't even have to keep track. When you're over 1,000 episodes, I don't have to keep track anymore. Lesser shows have to keep track of how many episodes they've got. So another feature of being the longest running gun podcast, probably, I don't know because I don't care, but I'm probably the longest running one, is I can format the show however I want, right? So we have a live conversation, no holds barred, well, except for all the bullshit topics, right? But if you want to talk real guns, bring in a topic. Let's talk about it. I throw the link out there and you join in, you be part of it. Sometimes the shows are epic. Sometimes they're 5 minutes long. I try to stick around longer than 5 minutes now. So yeah, we've got a bunch of people out there tonight. This thing tells me there's 3, but there's more than 3 of y'all chatting in here. So I threw the link out there, but I'm going to go make sure I got the front door locked. I have to put this extra bungee cord on the front door. Otherwise I get paranoid. She's going to push it open. Go back over. No, you're getting a belly rub right in front of everybody. Oh, here we go. In here. So I got her these sweet potato treats that she snips them and then she takes like a half an hour to eat them. So I don't know what it is about a sweet potato. Let me give her one. Oh, here, you want this? Well, she's gonna eat it. She likes them. They're super gross. I hate sweet potatoes. These are basically just beef jerky made out of sweet potatoes. It's like a dried up sweet potato, but I don't think anything on it.
Sounds awful.
Well, they don't smell good at all. They smell exactly like a sweet potato. It just says sweet potato. I bet you they just effing slice sweet potatoes into like really thick fries or maybe wedges and just let them get all gross, like get all dried out. They're not quite dried out. They're like a piece of beef jerky, I guess. Anyway, she likes it. Sweet potatoes are good for dogs. They like it. Anyway, so yeah, I just opened out the front door, so she's out there looking, and I have this extra bungee cord I put on there so that, in case she's leaning on it or something, it doesn't just pop open. Let's see. So yeah, everybody else is showing up. So again, this is a conversation, not some sort of entertainment bullshit. I quit entertaining people a long time ago. I'll educate if I can. I'll definitely encourage you to participate, but be part of the conversation so we can talk about whatever. You can chat about it out here if you want, or chat about it in here. Put a lot of work on barbecue, jumping in here every night, making him do all half the show. So there's a link out there. Anybody can join. All you need is a microphone. Sick of talking about it. This is for adults. We're doing this at midnight, not for little kids or old people in the middle of the day. So yeah, if you want to chat something legit, something real, then chat. We recently got voted by both political parties as too real for them. So both of them have, neither one of them will address this podcast. They both resolved to never mention this podcast because of how real it is. So you won't see it on the debates because of how real we are.
Because they're
the news is depressing. The news is always depressing, though. Think about it. Like, I was thinking about this. It just seems like yesterday. If you think, well, it depends on how old you are, I guess. But it just seems like yesterday, especially once you get older, right? Decades seems shorter, so 4 years don't seem like crap. Especially since this last 4 years, I was trying to get some stuff accomplished, and I can definitely remember a lot of the last 4 years, right? Doing different efforts and stuff, mainly to get ready for this fight, right? Because remember 4 years ago when it was Hillary Clinton? Does anyone remember that election cycle when dude got up on stage and said Hillary should be in jail and everybody was cheering that stuff on? Like, it was a crazy, tension-filled election cycle that people said it couldn't get worse. Well, hell, like, wake up. It's always like that. People said they were probably saying that when Mondale, whatever he did on a boat, somebody did something on a boat back in the day with some girl, and everybody just about clutched their pearls and freaked out over that, so anyway, here's the deal. You quit watching the news, the life still happens, world still goes on, right? Everybody pretty much, think about how many people there are. Oh, that's one of the things we're going to look at tonight. Think about how many people are that don't give a crap about every single little bump in the road, right? That are just on the bus getting from here to there. You can definitely watch every little grain of sand, every little rock, or every little boulder, and judge how it's affecting the rubber on your tire. Or you could quit micromanaging every single thing that happens coming out of the big news and just get on the bus and get across the country and make real change, right? Do stuff. I've seen a lot of people getting derailed and just rerunning what they did last year. So this show is an effort to resist against that bullshittery or that Groundhog Day bullshit. So yeah, the news is depressing. It's designed to be. If it was happy, then you would go outside and enjoy life and see a sunrise and appreciate the miraculous shit that we live in, the time that we exist in, and then you wouldn't be forced to, be worried about it and look at it every day. So that's just the nature of it. It's always been like that too. It's not like it's anything new. It's just they put new clothes on. They put a new skin on top of it. So yeah, I agree with that.
It's because we as humans cling to things that are bad. The things that are good don't stick with us nearly as much.
I don't believe any of that. That's what the media wants to say so they can justify their decision to show bullshit, but I don't believe that at all.
I'm
I
saying that's
think that
why
if they showed us good stuff and amazing stuff, it would be considered, what's the word? There's a word for that, propaganda, right? Because it would be delusional. It would be too whatever. But that's when a cynic, that's when somebody who can only see the bad side of everything. This is the person who doesn't want to participate or contribute, just wants to wait to see it all eventually die because they figure that if they do nothing, then no one else will do anything and it'll all just die and they'll be right, right? So the cynic, the loser that doesn't want to help or be part of it, that's afraid to fail, right, that doesn't have any experience failing because they've never tried, so they have no understanding that failure is just understanding and learning and fucking how growth works, right? Like those kind of people will suggest that we're like that. I don't believe that at all. I don't think we would have got to where we are today if we were like that. We've all been sitting in a freaking dark cave moping, right? Nah, I don't believe that at all. I think that's definitely a message you can get, but that's all about. If I walk into the Circle K or whatever version of the 7-Eleven you got, and you walk in there, you might walk out with licorice and freaking fruit punch, which in a million years, there could be nothing left in there and I could be starving and I'm not going to eat licorice or fruit punch, right? Some people, they're like, dang, I'm hungry and thirsty. I'm eating me some licorice and fruit punch. Like everyone goes in and eats what they feel like out of a convenience store. We're doing the same thing with our news. So I'm preaching, but I got to do something for the first 20 minutes before everybody figures out that there's an alternative to fear out there and they can be part of it by just clicking on that link and joining in and like changing the discussion to something decent. So again, preach that. Plus, I think it scares away the losers, the doom and gloomers that think everything's inevitably meant to fail. And if they just sit there and do nothing, they'll be right. Okay, now shut up. I don't know if it worked or not. We got more people in here now.
Oh, see, you're just sucking in the lurkers.
So anyway, I was watching an interesting video before, and we're going to go back to that. I'm not going to show it, but we got enough people in here. Hopefully they'll participate. Otherwise, I'll just shut it down because, like it is, this is pretty much my noon. It's still 100 degrees out here, so I sleep during that part of the day. And so I got no interest in sitting here at my noon listening to, or not having anybody participate, especially when I watch that little number at the top of the duck here. It says it tells us how many people. So if it goes up and there's like 11 people looking into the show, yeah, I got no interest in dancing for lurkers. So if you want to be part of it, start typing right in here. Otherwise, you got to be participating in some way. Otherwise, we're not doing a show. Then you're just sitting there in the bleacher seats. I don't do that kind of show. Anyway, so I'll quit saying that. And what the hell was I going to look for over here? My YouTube history. So if you go to your YouTube channel and then you click on the, what do they call this thing? A BLT or a sandwich menu thing at the top left on a regular computer. I don't know where it is on Mac. And then you click on about halfway down, it'll say history. That is all the videos that you have already looked at before. So for example, I could play this, which is a commercial, and I'll tell them the commercial, which I always do, and I'll skip it as soon as you can. If you don't skip it, it'll think you're not there, and it'll set you on a loop to play every commercial it can. Always skip them. So this is the video we started the show with, right? So then if I go down here a little ways, I think this is a communist channel, so I am not going to promote it, but it's kind of amazing, and I think it's right. So I don't know if you've seen this before or not. It's a channel that uses CGI, so computer graphics, to compare scale or compare sizes of things. And I think we've done this on the show before, because whenever I found it originally, they did a video on how much biomass there is on the planet. So if you take everything in terms of carbon footprint, or not footprint so much as like carbon presence, like if you take the skin of the earth, it's going to be made up of like metals and water and minerals, right? One of the things it's going to be made up of is life, which would fall into carbon, like we would all just become carbon, basically. It's our biggest thing. So if you take, like, for example, all of humans, I think it's all existing humans. So it's not like all humans through all time or anything, but all existing humans at any one point in time, we are 0.6 gigatons of carbon on the planet, which doesn't mean nothing other than, that's where we're at. But for example, birds are much smaller than us, where livestock is much bigger than us, right? Like livestock is bigger than us, so, and there's more of it. So it has more carbon on the planet than we do, right? Like the carbon is allocated to that, and then birds are pretty much all smaller than us. I think there's more birds than us, but whatever, they're smaller than us. So we're actually quite a bit more carbon on the planet than birds. So anyway, that's the first video I seen from them, and it was pretty neat. But this one I thought was pretty good. They have a whole series of them. I was gonna do a couple quizzes here tonight, see if anybody's out there awake. We only got 4 people, it says. So I think a bunch of people left when I called them out for being lurkers, and then got offended because they were going to be called to actually be participating in the show. So the people are still here, hopefully will participate. So here's like one of the questions. This is basically a video that shows the comparison of the gross domestic profit. I think that's what this is, GDP, right? Gross domestic profit of countries. So for example, the smallest one they got is Tuluvia, which I don't know what the hell that is, probably some islands, and it's only $37 million. So, I mean, there's probably companies bigger than that, right? I think the first one that anyone's going to know, does anybody know what San Marino is? How about Iceland? Iceland's probably the smallest one that they got on here, and it is 15 trillion. So Iceland is, in the way that they did this video, I don't know how many people, I haven't been watching the chat over here. I wish I could, I don't want to screen share because I'm pretty sure this is channel as a comment. The way that they're comparing or illustrating the scale of gross domestic profit of each of these countries is with dollar bills. So, like they start off the video showing you what $37 million looks like, and then $37 million is about the size of a pool table, but from floor stacked solidly up to the dimensions of the top of a pool table. Maybe like 2 refrigerators laying down. I'm trying to think of like what scale this is, but $37 million isn't really all that big. It's like bigger. It's like a king size bed that's a little tall, right? It's not that big physically. You get to the next country is, I guess the next couple of countries up is what did I say? I'm waiting for the damn video to catch up. Iceland. So Iceland has $15 trillion. That's like the size of just a small house, like a really small house. It's about the size of a semi truck probably if you stacked it that way. So it's not really all that big. $15 trillion. So then you get some of the questions I was going to ask is, which do you think is bigger? And this isn't for barbecue necessarily. You can answer after other people do maybe, so that they get a chance. What do you think is bigger though, Jamaica or Ethiopia in sense of gross domestic profit? So what was I just asking? Ethiopia and the island of Jamaica. So island of Jamaica and Ethiopia, which do you think is bigger? And I'm not going to necessarily say the numbers right off the bat because I want to. G23 saying Ethiopia is bigger.
I feel like it's a trick question. I want to say Jamaica, but like I said, I feel like it's a trick question, so I'm going to have to go with Ethiopia.
I should have started it this way, so forget that question. I'm going to start it this way because I already said what Iceland is. Oh, I already said that Iceland was small, so that doesn't work. So, yeah, I'm going to stick with Jamaica versus Ethiopia because you don't know which one is next. So we got both either way, so you can be the tiebreaker, I guess. Unless other people are going to start participating, we'll see. Other people are able to participate and not have rage against whatever the media tells them we may raging against. And here's another thing that'll happen. A bunch of 9mm worshipers, what they'll do is get together on Friday nights and have 9mm Discord marathons where they all talk about 9mm, rub it on each other or whatever they do.
It's like the 9mm Skull and Bones Club, I think.
Yeah, but that has power. So these people just have the illusions of power. So they, whatever. So folks mentioned it in relation to the election. Oh, I see. You guys are talking about something else. So anyway, without making it go on forever, let's see. I wish I could make this thing. I bet you I can't make it much bigger on my screen because I'm not screen sharing. Iceland, it's pretty much the same thing. Iceland has a gross domestic profit of 15 trillion, and that's the size of a small building, small house, really, like the size of a semi-truck and its trailer. Jamaica is about twice the size at 25 trillion, which is amazingly, a little bit about twice the size physically, where Ethiopia, and this will be clear later, has 161 trillion. So it's like a scale of, is that 6 times larger than Jamaica? So Ethiopia's pile of dollar bills, $161 trillion in dollar bills, looks about like a 4-story building and, like an office building, like fairly big. So that's Ethiopia. And this is the beginning. So then you got Ethiopia and New Zealand, almost identical. They might as well be the same number, right? So now the next question is, let me see, let me get to the next one, would be, which do you think is bigger as far as gross domestic profit? Mexico, our neighbor to the south, Mexico, or Argentina, our other neighbor to the very far south, I guess. Mexico, Argentina. Ethiopia has a booming trade market. I think a lot of these countries have stuff going for them that we don't pay attention to, just based off of some of these videos I've seen. However, the video is pretty much made by communists, I'm pretty sure, so I'm guessing there's some chicanery going on with these videos. That's the right word. Pretty sure it's the right word. So what was I asking? Dang, I can't see. I wish I could zoom out on this, but I really can't. Oh, maybe I can. I can't really read what I started with, though, because they get really big. And just FYI, we're still talking about tiny countries over here. We're not even talking about big countries yet. Did I say New Zealand? Dang, I forgot which ones I said. Argentina and
Mexico.
Norway? Oh, Argentina and Mexico. Okay. The way this video, it's sort of like these things are all stacks of money, like if they were buildings on a street. So the video keeps driving down the street, and I keep forgetting where the hell I was when I stopped it. So there it is, Mexico, and Argentina is that blue one. So Argentina has a stupid looking flag, in my opinion, and they should do something. It's baby blue and white. It just seems like it's waiting to get dirty all the time. Everybody's saying Argentina is bigger than Mexico. What do you think? Not alphabetically.
That's going to be my guess.
What?
Argentina was going to be my guess.
Argentina. So to put it in perspective, because you're all doing this in your heads or whatever. Argentina is, where did we leave off? We left off with Jamaica, right? With 20. No, we left with Ethiopia. Yeah, we left off with Ethiopia, right, with 161. And then we said New Zealand was basically the same, 170. You get to, dang it, where did it go? Argentina, and we're almost going to hit the next, I don't even know what that is. So 1,000, million, trillion, what's the next? Billion? I guess billion is after trillion, right?
No, billions before trillion. Quintillion, I believe, would be next.
Okay, so it goes, dang it, I wish I could rewind better. The problem is if I'm not playing, it won't rewind. So it's being a real dick. Let me say that Ethiopia was 161 trillion, because that's after a million. And then you get to Argentina, and it's 971 trillion. So that's where it gets to whatever the next thing is, whatever's after trillion. Is that billion? Or I mean, Gillion? No.
No.
Trillion and then zillion.
Billions after million.
Right. So Argentina's at 971 trillion, right? And this is the size, this is enough money that it's the size of like a, I don't know, 4-story building that's like twice the size of that other one, right? It's not that much money yet compared to some of what's going to come. So anyway, Mexico, whatever the next thing is that it's got to be trillion. Let's just assume, or no, it's not trillion. It's what's after trillion? Cotillion?
Yeah, it'd be quartillion or cotillion. I'm not sure exactly.
After trillion, there's 2 of them, and then 200 trillion. So Mexico is the fuck bigger than Argentina. And I would have thought, Argentina had a bunch of gas money or oil money or something, but turns out Mexico ain't farting around. So Mexico is at 2, whatever that is, right?
Now, do they count drug money for Mexico in this?
No,
or
this is probably all legit, I think, but I don't know. It's communist, so it might be counting illegal money because it might be counting out money. I really don't know. And this is also made in Spain or someplace, so everything's in Spanish, and I barely know. I definitely don't know a lot of Spanish words. I only know some Spanish. Then they got Mexico at 2, whatever's after trillion. And that's at 2.2. The whole United Kingdom, which is Britain and Ireland and Scotland, right? And something else, I think, all together is 2.7. So Mexico is almost as big as all of Europe. So right there, right? Now you got Brazil, which is, if United Kingdom was 2.7, Brazil is 3.1. Russia, 3.7. What is bigger, Germany or Japan? Bigger economy, bigger gross domestic profit. They might, and I don't know, if they're counting illegal money, then they're counting illegal money everywhere, right? Because it's either how they're doing it or they're not. So either leaving it out or they're in here. So it really doesn't matter because you're still going to compare the countries overall. So now what we're doing, Germany and Japan?
Yep.
We left off Russia at 3.7, like bajillion or whatever the hell's after trillion. Actually, go look what's after trillion. What it is after trillion. Next after trillion is quadrillion. 1 with 15 zeros after it. I mean, these are giant countries, so it makes sense, right? Y'all are saying that Japan is bigger than Germany? It's interesting that the countries that got their asses kicked in World War II and then got brought back to life or nurtured or whatever that's called, I forget there's a name for whatever we did or everybody did. Those are some of the biggest countries today. And they're not the biggest countries by any means, right? They're like the size of California or something, both of them. So anyway, yeah, Germany is a little bit smaller. It's bigger than Russia. So Germany is bigger than Russia. I didn't know that. Russia is at 3.7 whatever bajillion, and Germany is at 3.9 bajillion. Japan is at 4.9, so they ain't even screwing around. Japan kicked the shit out of Germany and everybody else. So the question is, what's the biggest economy? There's 3 that are left, basically. I mean, there's probably a shit ton of other countries that aren't even on this scale. To put it in scale, the biggest one we've looked at so far is Japan, right? And they were at 4.9, so almost 5 quadrillion gross domestic profit. There's 3 more economies that are bigger than Japan. And if you were to stack the money, right, and it's at some point they just stack it like an office building, basically, right? So it's that big around footprint, but then they start going up. The first country's money, about the size of an office building, would stack up to the top of the Ferris wheel in England. And the next, the next economy would stack about the size of an office building all the way to the top of the Eiffel Tower. And the biggest economy goes past the Eiffel Tower. So there's the next 3 aren't near each other. They're all different numbers. They're all different scales. And then to put it all in perspective, the world economy is 119. 1, 2, that's millions. Those are trillions. So 119 quadrillions. So we're dealing with a whole world economy of 120. And the last thing we saw was Japan at 5. So the big three economies make up 115 of 120 quadrillion dollars. It's not even close. There's 3 countries that run the fucking world, basically. But these 3 economies that are running everything.
I feel like I was gonna say the U.S., China, and India.
And then in what order? G23 seems to think Australia is winning. Maybe in Mad Max times. You got to go to another chat for Mad Max times, though.
I think if I had to put them in order, I'd say China's number 1, we're number 2, India's number 3.
Yeah, basically. So China is at 21.2. We're at 18.5. And little punk India is down there at 8.7. So I would have thought we were the little punk, but we're actually got way more. So think about that. We have 4% of the world's population, and we have 18.5 of the 120 that the whole of all the world makes. We make a sixth of what the world makes, and we're 6%. So a sixth, more like 20.
You figure California alone is the 5th largest economy in the entire world, so
it could be because, well, I don't know. I don't know. Well, wait. 1, 2, 3, 4. So, man, I wish I could show this. I just hate to promote the channel because I'm pretty sure it's communist. They leave things out that makes me think it's communist. Like when they are showing stuff, they'll leave some stuff out that just to me seems strategic. Otherwise, I'd show you. But yeah, the way that they did this, like I say, it's sort of like they did a 3-dimensional version of what it would be like to just stack all these dollar bills. And then they put in some reference points like semi-trucks and humans and the Eiffel Tower and crap like this so that you can get some scale and perspective on it all. So yeah, it kind of looks like all these stacks of money are just different sized buildings going down a street. And it looks like 3 skyscrapers and then 6, 7 kind of 2-story buildings and then a shit ton of little baby houses, like little building blocks. Because yeah, most every country that thinks it's so good or is so good is like nothing, man. It's like nothing compared to our 3 economies. So yeah, I know California, well, it doesn't even matter, dude. If California was a half of a half of a half of a half, it would be bigger than it would be definitely bigger than all but 5 countries. So that's crazy. So that means New York, probably, I don't know, every rich Texas, right? All these states are probably way bigger than most of the countries out there. Yeah, we sit around acting like we're about to go to civil war. The rest of the world is yeah, go for it, dumbasses. So let's see. Then the next one is biomass, like I talked about. Let's see. So this one is a little different because I don't think anyone can even conceptualize how crazy it is. So I'll have to go over these off air or something because they're really neat videos. So again, if you get the concept that if you just think of us all as how much carbon we take up on the surface of the earth, and like I was saying, the birds are about an eighth of the amount that humans take up, and we are probably a half of what livestock takes up, and livestock is about a quarter or an eighth even of what fish take up because there's way more fish than basically fish are the biggest of the animals. So if you take all the animals, so that's mollusks, everything like mammals, everything with a vertebrae, birds, and then jellyfish, everything that's an animal, so everything that's basically mobile and can reproduce, it's, that isn't a tiny little thing, and that it, like a microscopic type single cell or non-animal. I don't know, I don't get into all the biology, but if you take all the animals, Are there more animals, or wait, what's bigger, animals or insects? If you just counted us all as carbon on the Earth.
I'm gonna have to go with animals.
Like if a giant machine could come by and just gobble the Earth up and then give you some kind of a readout, like here's what it was composed of, it would say like this percent viruses, this percent animals, this percent, let's see, what are some of the other ones? Besides viruses, we got arthropods, so that's bugs. And then we've got the protozoa. We've got the stuff that's even smaller than protozoa, single-celled crap, algae. Then you got fungi, mushrooms. And then you've got bacteria. You've also got plants, of course, you know, like we're animals, plants, and then all those other things are like basically lesser plants in no particular order. So yeah, if you'd counted all of that, is there more animals, or is there, what was I saying? More animals or more, dang, what was the other one I said? Not carbon footprint, but like amount of carbon that we take up. Oh, insects? Okay.
Yes, the other option you gave.
Yeah, so insects. I'm trying to get to where this thing shows me a long range because I had to zoom in to see what all the little things. Whenever there's one that dwarfs all the others, like it gets impossible to read the little ones at the end. Okay, here we are. So did we even get any answers? That's a tough one because it's fairly close. It's fairly close. Nobody's saying anything. So anybody out there? We got 5 people, it says, but so again, if we count, if you took all the, some kind of machine came, you know, Gigantus or whatever that guy's, Galactus or whatever, came by and sucked all the surface of the Earth off and then spit out, he'd say like, there's this many plants, there's this many funguses, there's this many protozoa, there's this many vertebrates and animals, there's this many, whatever else I was saying. So people or animals, I guess, all animals, and or also bugs. I'd have to zoom back in to get the actual number because it is pretty close. Oh no, it says right on the ground here. Anyone? Anyone? So what did you say? Animals or bugs?
I'm gonna have to go with bugs.
All right. Well, because you may not be. Well, no, you pretty much. You're not counting single-cell organisms as bugs or anything.
No, I'm just talking like creepy crawlies.
Yeah. So basically, things that can move, and well, that's not true because there's a shit ton of little single-cell stuff can move. It would be stuff that's got an exoskeleton, I guess, and then legs. I don't know what the hell makes it an insect anymore. I think it was exoskeleton, legs, and a system. It has to have some kind of either some kind of a system, like a nervous system or a reproductive system or something more than a single cell. But I don't really remember anymore. But anyway, they're almost the same when it comes to the grand scheme of things. When you think about the skin of the planet Earth, humans take up 2 gigatons of carbon. The insects take up 1 gigaton. So even though that's, you know, we're twice as big as them, that's all animals, and that's still all bugs. That's a shit ton of bugs. But really, we're really similar when you look at the scale compared to all these other things. So what's kind of cool is if you took all the carbon, you know, it's just the carbon. We're like mostly water and air. So if you just took all the carbon of every animal on the whole planet and jammed it all in one pile, it would be like a couple of blocks in New York. It would be as tall as the skyscrapers and shit, but it would only be like a few blocks. It's really not that much compared to the surface of the Earth. You know, it's like not even the city of New York. It's like a few blocks. It's like not even a neighborhood of New York. It's just, you know, a bunch of New York would be covered in carbon if all of us were scraped up and piled there. So then the next question is, let's take all of us together because we're basically on the same team because we are all you know, better life forms than plants and bacteria and funguses and shit. So if you take all humans and animals, which we now know is 3 gigatons, is there more of us or is there more mushrooms, fungi? Fungi is everything with mycelia that grows and flowers into mushrooms. It'll be slimes and molds, funguses.
Chalk itch.
I don't know when you get into human shit. What? There's not too many funguses that get us. Athlete's foot, I think, might be, but some of that other stuff is more like viruses and shit like that. So I don't know if anybody's playing anymore. Nobody's really saying anything, but I thought the stuff was interesting. So if you take humans and animals, mix them together, that's 3 gigatons. Do you think that's more or less than all the mushrooms?
Less.
How much less?
That I'm not sure on, but I know there was something I was watching the one time, and it was talking about mushrooms are basically the reason that we have the plethora of life that we do today. So I'm going to say that there's probably a shit ton more mushrooms.
Yeah, there definitely is. So if we have all plants and all insects together are 3 gigatons of carbon, fungus by itself is 12 gigatons. So yeah, fungus dwarf us. So there's a shit ton more of it, but it's also integral because yeah, it can take elements and turn them into other things like rock and deteriorate it into other things that become the soil or become the nutrients that grow plants. And it can break down, or fungus does break down organic matter into the elements that allow other organic matter to grow. So yeah, it's integral for that role of taking like terraforming, like taking raw mineral and water and I guess gaseous elements and giving them breaking that stuff down. And you can literally find fungus that can break down pretty much everything that we've got can be broken down by a fungus. So it's pretty neat. Yep. All right, so now we've got the 2 insects, 2 gigatons of carbon from insects, 1 gigaton from it was 2 gigatons from all animals, 1 gigaton from insects. And that we're going to put that together with the 12 gigatons of fungus. So now we're all fighting together with fungus. And we've got 15 gigatons, right? 15 gigatons of carbon. This is like getting to be almost the size of a Borg cube of solid carbon. You know, you take all these life forms on Earth and you put them up against bacteria, which is bigger. 15 gigatons, which is all of the animals, all of the insects, and all of the fungus. And all we're doing is taking the carbon that represents, and is there more of all of us or bacteria? Singles. I don't think bacteria is single cell, so bacteria. I think there can be multi-cell bacteria.
I'm kind of curious, are they counting the bacteria?
No, not protozoas and not algae, just bacteria. Plain old.
Well, I was going to say
that makes our armpits stink and the stuff that makes your mouth stink and the stuff that makes our guts work. Like you say, not algae, not pond scum. That's a single cell plant basically. That's different. For comparison, there's 12 gigatons of carbon worth of fungus. There's 7 gigatons worth of carbon of just algae. So there's a shit ton of algae in the ocean, and that comes out to 7 gigatons. We're talking bacteria, even smaller than algae.
Yep. Yeah, I just wasn't sure if they were separating like the algae in our gut. Good gosh, the bacteria in our gut and our mouth, and
we're talking that kind of bacteria. So the algae is that 7 isn't counted in our 15. It's separate, and it's just a separate entity. There's enough stuff on the Earth that we're not going to count that. We're not going to count protozoa. And we're not counting whatever that white thing is. I can't read because it's too small. So we're getting into bigger stuff now. So we're now fungus, humans, animals versus bacteria. Who's taking up more of this planet?
Probably bacteria.
Yeah. So if we're 15, and if we take all that algae and put it together and we're 22, bacteria is 70. We're a little punk bitch compared to bacteria. So bacteria is at 70 gigatons. So now if we take 70 gigatons and we add our 22 gigatons to it, so now it's at 92 gigatons. This is, now you can spread carbon across all of New York about as thick as the skyscrapers. That's how much carbon we're talking about. Not New York State, but New York City, at least the part that they have these things sitting on. So like the downtown part of New York City. I don't know the names of the neighborhoods, but you could definitely smear it all around that peninsula of New York City, about as thick as the skyscrapers, so however many fucking hundreds of stories tall they are. And this is just pure carbon, right? And that's all of everything: bacteria, fungus, animals, and insects. How do we stack up against freaking plants, house plants and corn? Anyone? We only got 2 people watching. We have a chat full of people that can't handle this kind of real gun talk. This is too much gun talk for them. Can't handle it. They got to go listen to whoever they're supposed to vote for, or who they're supposed to get mad at because of what they said. I only got DJ or maybe Ozark. Then I'll participate. What do you think in barbecue?
Us
All the
versus
edibles, all the
plants?
bacteria, 92 gigatons of carbon versus, plants.
Mm.
It is.
But if it's just animal life versus plants, I say it's hands down plants. But if it's bacteria versus plants, I don't know which way to go with that.
All right. Well, here's the deal. So we're 92 if we count everything that can move and then take all bacteria and algae and put it together. Plants, which is cactuses and grass and trees, monocots and dicots, basically. Plants, 450. Yeah. If you look at this planet from another planet, we're green, right? Yeah. It's chlorophyll that makes this fucking place work. So yeah, we're 1. Plants are 450. Fungus is 12. Bacteria is 70. The only thing that we're bigger than is, as a collective, we're bigger than insects. But if you start breaking animals down into what we actually are, a bunch of stupid shit, pretty much a lot of stuff, right? Like all different kinds of stuff, birds and jellyfishes and shit. So, insects wail on any of us individually because, insects are massive, but together animals can wail on insects. But super neat. And that has nothing to do with anything. It's not some kind of environment thing or nothing as much as just, again, if some planet destroyer came by and then gave us a report at the end, that's how much carbon each of us, used up in the making of this planet or whatever. Kind of neat. And man, I don't even know. You'd probably get more all in New York, all in New Jersey, Manhattan Island, everything that is city, probably into Connecticut, as deep as a skyscraper with, that much carbon and maybe even all the water. I really don't know. It's hard to kind of determine, but a shit ton, just a ton more carbon. I would show you the video, but like I say, I'm pretty sure they're communist. Let's see. I don't know if anybody wants to keep going with that. There's a couple other ones that were sort of interesting. They had one for pandemics that I watched that was pretty good, where they put all the world's pandemics in order of magnitude. They do one with how much water is on the earth. That one's super interesting. Here's the way to picture it. If the earth is a basketball, how much water is there on the earth? Is there a BB, like a BB gun BB? Is there a big ass marble, right? Not a normal marble, but that big ass marble you get when you're playing marbles? Is there a golf ball? Or is it like a softball, like a big ass softball? Not like a normal size softball, but like that big ass one. If the earth is a basketball, how much water is on the earth?
I've heard this one before, and I cannot remember it.
I've never seen it before. I've seen the thing where they take the water off of the oceans and show you what the earth looks like, and it's not round, right? The earth is roundish because there's so much water on the surface of the oceans, but the oceans are only miles deep. So, it kind of looks like an apple that somebody squished or something. It doesn't even look like there's bites out of it or nothing necessarily. But in this video, they took all the water and they made it its own little entities, like its own little moon, its own little sphere next to the earth. And that is amazing. And then they showed how much of the water that's on the earth is fresh water, right? Obviously it's mostly salt water. And then how much of that fresh water we actually ever even use. Like, it is any way, shape, or form available to us, because most of the water is under the ground somewhere. So,
under the ground or in the glaciers and ice caps.
or maybe in the air, right, in the weather. So yeah, somewhere that we don't got it. But they basically, and this is a really neat channel, like for this kind of stuff, they help you conceptualize or visualize. So they take the globe, the Earth, and they stick it there, and then they show you next to it how much water there is. So if the Earth is a basketball, all the water on the Earth, is it the size of a BB? Is it the size of all those different things I said, like a big ass marble, or a tennis ball, a big ass softball? I guess that's the ones I said, right? DJ is saying the big ass softball, whatever's below a basketball. Yeoman is saying a marble.
I think the drinking water is the BB.
Not the drinking water, all water on the planet. Not the drinking
Well, I was going to say
The
drinking water is a BB, but all water in general, I think, is the golf ball.
Yeah, I would say, I'm trying to remember now, but all water in the whole Earth, all the water would be like a basketball. It was more like a golf ball, something like that. Maybe a little bigger, somewhere between a golf ball and a tennis ball, maybe like a racquetball or some shit, like something in there. That was all the Earth's water. And that surprised the shit out of me, because just trying to visualize that, the oceans are like nothing, right? Like they got to be just a skin compared to how big the ball, the Earth is compared to that. Then the drinking water is, well, maybe not a BB, but pretty damn small. At least smaller, somewhere between a BB and a regular sized marble, for sure. Like very little of the water. I mean, you could definitely see it. It was bigger than like, I don't think it would, like all the water. Well, no, I would say all the drinking water wouldn't even fill the Gulf of Mexico. Like it wasn't a ball that big. It was smaller than however much water that would be. So, yeah, it was pretty amazing. But it makes you think, like, makes sense. There's not even, it's like only 1/3 of the planet is even not under salt water. And then of that, there's a whole bunch of deserts and shit. So it makes a lot of sense that we're only using like a little trickle of it. Let's see. There was a neat one about how many minerals we have, like just how much stuff there is, which is kind of neat. How much we mine every year, like how much of the different minerals we mine. Do you think we mine more copper, or do we mine more gold?
Every year, or just
Yearly? I think that was yearly. I'm pretty sure that was annually. Actually, it was annually, because it would be neat to show these things. Man, I wish this channel wasn't so shitty. That one's actually pretty good too, now that I think about it. Which one was that? Oil reserves? No. World mineral production at real scale. How am I going to do this without printing
But that
on the channel?
saved me so much my insurance. Or a little something special.
So yeah, it was more copper or more gold. Let's see. How many, if this is annually, they mine about as tall as a person, like 6 foot by 6 foot by 6 foot. That's how many diamonds come out of the earth every year. Platinum is like twice that. Other metals I never heard of before. Gold is like maybe like a semi truck's worth of gold, like the truck and trailer of a semi. That much gold comes out of the ground. Pretty much the same amount of mercury. And because I'm pretty sure this is all mined and not like just how much we recycle and all that other stuff. Right? This is like how much is mined. Man, how am I going to show this without showing the damn channel and getting this straight? Because this is, I think, one of the neater ones for this visualization. We're just going to try doing this and then hopefully not get in trouble. Let's see what happens. Maybe I'll do this and then do this. Nope. Do this, and then you don't really see the name of the thing so much. Does that work? Can you see it? Anyone? This microphone still work?
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right, so I'm going to just go from here and let it play. Oh, crap. I just showed the name. So that's how much diamonds, right? I only use like half of that many diamonds every year. And then whatever that metal is, we use that much of it. That's a dude. And then that's how much platinum. And that's how much gold. There's a car down there for reference, for scale. See it? Anybody seen these videos before? And then this is how much of mercury. And now I'll skip. So that's how much gold. See, oh, that's a way to do it. So you get the concept, right? We're kind of zooming in. So that's a dude down there next to the diamonds. Everybody with me? And then gold is pretty big. Mercury, pretty much right with it. Whatever the hell bismuth is, something. There's silver. So massive amount of silver compared to gold, right? We'll keep going a little bit. Uranium, basically the same as silver. Cadmium, tungsten, right? That's a big deal. Nobody cares about any of these. Cobalt, dumb, nobody cares. Antimony, nobody cares, we don't even know what that is. Tin, nickel, right? That's what they make nickels out of. Lead, that's what they make bullets out of. That's how much we mine. So look at how much lead compared to everything else. There's the Statue of Liberty. So if this is all in real perspective, keep in mind. So except for these stupid names and stuff, everything is real life. So like I'm trying to say, like, you know, some of these things have been the size of buildings. Like we pull out enough nickel out of the earth that it would be this giant building of solid nickel, right? So then you get to graphite for all them pencils. Then zinc, how big that's getting. It's like super tall buildings already. Solid material too. There's copper. So just insane amount of copper. Like there's no way to even explain that, right? Compared to gold down here. Little punk bitch, little gold, like, oh yeah, can I borrow some gold? And then it's like, boom. Oops, where'd it go? Boom. Where'd it go? Come on. Yeah, copper, chromium, manganese, which I'm guessing is for something. Knives or something? I don't know what these people need these things for. There's aluminium, way the hell bigger than copper, right? This is what gypsies use. There's some building, probably that one in Dubai or whatever. There's salt. Makes sense though, right? Salt, like we use salt for a ton of stuff. There's helium. We use as much helium as we use salt. That's amazing. And it's 10 times more than aluminum or anything. Helium you can't create. It's a noble gas, and it's the smallest noble gas. You can't make helium. So helium allegedly comes off the top of natural gas, and we just usually throw it away, let it just go away, let it just leak out of the ground and put matches out in it and shit. Or not, I guess, not in this. That would have been, or no, wait. Yeah, helium is inert, right? Yeah, so helium is a tough one. Then you got your pig iron, like shitty iron, basically, right? Crude steel. What the hell bauxite is, probably for making boxes. And then iron, or whatever, this or that, right? And then this. Are you ready for this? What do you think this is? Can you see that thing coming? Can you see it coming? So, is everybody watching this? I can't tell from the comments anymore if people are seeing this and understanding the scale here. Like, this is how much this little tiny refrigerator's worth of gold. It's actually quite a bit more than refrigerator's worth of gold down here, but you know, we went from like refrigerator's worth of diamonds to shit tons of gold to weird metals that we don't use for nothing to, what was that, copper? And then iron and salt and helium for some reason. And then everything just turns into like this monolith. So, yeah. We were at 300 and something million cubic tons or whatever, 371 million metric cubic tons of iron ore. We're up to 5.5 trillion of petroleum.
That's what I was kind of figuring.
That is crazy. And then, of course, coal sitting right next to it. So that gives you an idea. That's how much, look at that. That's New York underneath it all the time, I'm pretty sure. So that gives you an idea how much petroleum we're pulling out of the planet each year. And then how much coal we're digging holes and pulling out versus, you know, these other pieces of materials. That's the whole world too. That ain't just one country or nothing. So yeah, I think these things are awesome. Now, I don't know what he's trying to prove with this, but yeah, I just think that's really, really, really neat. Cobalt getting bigger as in Cobalt Bank? I don't know. Which one's bigger, Palmetto or Remington? I don't even know. Probably Palmetto because they still exist, right? So I'll quit screen sharing. But now you guys got an idea of what these videos are like. And if you saw the channel, feel free. But like I said, I just don't want to promote them because I'm pretty sure they're not all fair. So we did that one. That one was kind of neat. I just thought that part, the end of that, like once you get the concept of what that video, you know, this channel is nothing but this. It's all about showing that kind of scale perspective on different things, like we just saw, like, you know, different ways of interpreting the way things are. So with that metal one, you know, going from like gold and copper and all the stuff we're used to, and then seeing just how much larger in scale or whatever the, I don't know, like the iron and stuff. Just neat to see, like I say, the magnitude of it, I guess. I'm trying to think of the right word. So let's see. So there's some interesting ones with oil, which are actually, I don't even know. It's almost hard to explain, like hard to deal with the size and the magnitude of the numbers because, damn, I could barely keep up with whatever that was, quadrillion. They definitely get bigger when they start talking about oil. There's one on the production of oil per day. And then there's one on the reserves. And the reserves one is insane. Definitely something you have to watch in this kind of animated perspective thing because you have to just keep zooming out to understand some of the scale and stuff. There used to be a channel called something like, I think it was called 10,000 Pennies or something. And he would use like a coffee table and just a million pennies to help illustrate some financial things. I think it was more than 4 years ago. It might have just been 4 years ago, but I think it was in 2 election cycles ago. Otherwise, they have that same channel has one on death tolls from dictators, which is kind of neat, putting it in perspective of coffins, like the size of a coffin stacked to show the scale of the various dictators throughout time. I've heard of most of them, and then a couple of them I never even heard of, which are massive. Like one of them was like something like 690 million people, or no, 690,000 people, almost a million people. And I don't think I'd ever heard of the guy from some like Lithuania or some weird country in Europe, I think. Maybe from a long time ago or something. Like I say, they had the one on pandemics. That one's pretty neat, eye-opening. And then they have a ton. Most of the stuff I've been looking at, we've been talking about, is all their boring stuff. They have a ton that they'll start with either like robots or airplanes or boats or ships and spaceships and stuff. And they'll put like all the different spaceships next to each other. So that part's really neat. But I'm not going to recommend the channel because if you spend any time looking at it, maybe you'll understand what I'm talking about. I really don't think it's fair. I think it's interesting, but I'd like to see someone else do it that includes better stuff. And honestly, even when they do the robot stuff, I think they exclude good robots and they include stupid robots. So it's interesting to see like where Mecha Godzilla stands up with Optimus Prime or something, right? In that kind of a situation. But not when it's a bunch of goofy robots I never heard of. So it's interesting, but it's not. Like I say, it's not perfect. one thing's for sure, it didn't come from any dead dinosaurs way too much. Well, when you think about how much plant mass there is, and that's one of the things that, I don't know what he's trying to prove with that whole carbon mass thing, but when you think about how much plant mass there is on the planet compared to animal mass, I mean, I guess I understand that. But yeah, how do you go with this theory that oil comes from dinosaurs when there's oceans of methane and petroleum and other solvents on Venus? It's a natural whatever. Is the word refining? It's like a naturally refining process or something when you get those heavy chemicals that leach up under pressure and temperature. The Earth ends up creating stuff, or I guess I should say what planet what do you call it, tectonics or whatever, like all that shit, right? I think that's where oil and gas comes from. That doesn't mean it's going to be there forever. We're definitely picking up reserves, and we can't just assume it refills right away. But yeah, I think just because there's a bunch of dinosaur bones in your oil doesn't mean it came from oil, from dinosaur bones. That's like saying Dr. Pepper comes from ice. Right? I wonder what it would look like if their values were factored in. Salt might be in a tiny building. Oh, like the value, how much those things are worth? That they might have something like that. There's a lot of videos over there. I only look at the ones that really kind of seem the most interesting. And because I'm pretty sure it's like a Spanish channel, a whole bunch of them are just in Spanish, and I don't know what they're about. So I have only looked at, I guess, maybe a dozen of their videos. I used to look at them for the spaceship ones. They would have because it's not just one movie, so it'll be like what the different enterprises might be compared to snow speeders, compared to an AT-AT, compared to the Battlestar Galactica thing, compared to the thing from, they just include a bunch of different movies, so you really get a good idea of how big all these spaceships are. And then it's neat because they almost always stick them on top of New York, so they start somewhere around the Statue of Liberty, so by the time they get to a spaceship or a robot or something that's the size of the Statue of Liberty, it's right there for scale. And that really helps you out because, I don't know, like the aircraft carrier in the Avengers is like a shit ton bigger than the aircraft carrier in Sky Captain, World of Tomorrow, or whatever it's called, is way bigger than the flying aircraft carrier in the Avengers. Like the aircraft carrier in the Avengers is like a lifeboat for the one in Sky Captain. Like you can land the aircraft carriers from Avengers on the aircraft carrier from Sky Captain. And I would have thought they were the same size because they both look like flying aircraft carriers from the movie, right? But when they do all the nerd math, the one is way bigger. Very well, so we went an hour, but that was mostly just blabbing about stuff that ain't gun related, even though this is the most real gun chat. So actually, these were gun topics. You just didn't even know it. If you listen to this and you thought these weren't gun topics, then you're not real enough. You're the one that's got problems. These
For sure, we talked about lead.
All kinds of hidden gun situations in here. But anyway, nobody's saying anything, and here's the deal. It's 100 something, so this is my noon. This is the middle of my day. And I drank a energy chocolate earlier, so I got a million things I could be doing. But we could also keep chatting. I think we went 3 hours yesterday, so it's not a threat. It's a promise. We'll end the show if no one participates. Cool. Anyone remember those Star Wars Universe blueprint books? I definitely remember Star Trek ones when you're talking about like the blasters and the tricorders and stuff. There was ones for that, but I never owned one. They were too expensive and I wasn't into it enough. I had a set of books or at least a couple of hardcover books that I don't even know where they came from. Somebody gave them to me when I was little and I liked this stuff. And they were really, really nice, like art drawings of spaceships. And they would be, I can't remember. I think you would have like one page, it would be the spaceship in space. And then you'd flip the page and it would be like the blueprint or whatever you call like the skeletonized drawing where you'd see all the different insides, the engines and the different decks and the hallways and stuff. I had some kind of book like that, but it wasn't Star Trek, but I wouldn't put it past them. When I was a little kid, Star Trek came or Star Wars came out, and I don't think they made any books about it. By the time Empire came out, I was too old to have been that. I mean, I watched Empire, but I was already, worried about other things, getting ready to drive and shit. Well, maybe not that much, but definitely had a bike and I was doing stuff. I don't think I was playing Star Wars figures anymore. Yeah, they were always expensive. And then I think I knew some kids that were loaded, a couple of different kids, I guess, that were loaded. We lived near people. We lived like adjacent to the really rich people. So I knew a couple of people that were like halfway rich or whatever, and they had more toys than we would have. And everybody was cool. Like, you'd have it. I think half the reason some parents would buy somebody a nice toy is because they knew they were going to be the only kid out of their friends that were going to get it, right? And I don't know if the parents talked to each other, so they'd be like, hey, we're going to get this one, and this one, and this one, and this one. So we all didn't get the same thing. But, whoever had those books, I know we all looked at them. We didn't share them necessarily, but I got to experience some of those books. But I remember the Star Wars ones. I think I would have dug a Star Wars one. That's why I'm thinking I don't think I would have seen them. Because there was certain things like what's going on inside that Jawa boat tank thing. Like, I would have wanted to know what's going on inside of there because the toy was wrong. And even in Millennium Falcon, I don't remember seeing what's inside the Millennium Falcon until way after Empire. That was always a mystery. What was going on? I don't think I've ever seen what's going on inside the Death Star. There must be books on that by now. There's probably books on every single thing about the Death Star. Probably all three of the Death Stars. Those movies where there are these videos where they do size comparisons of spaceships, they'll stick the Death Stars in there. So it's pretty interesting to see the scale of some of those giant ships. Most of the time, they're movies or video games and stuff I've never heard of, though, especially with the stuff that's bigger than the Death Star. Let's see. So I'm just looking at my videos that I've seen or I've been watching. So definitely, there's also videos of that same place, that kind of semi-communist place that does all these 3D renderings. They do some where they take real life stuff and mix it with science fiction stuff, which is kind of neat. Seeing like how big a real airplane is next to a spaceship or some kind of fake boat or a movie thing or something from a book. And then the other one is when they take the giant spaceships and they stick them on top of New York so that you can see like some of these spaceships. If you stuck some of these spaceships on Earth, they would look like somebody stuck a toothpick on a tennis ball, right? They would be very, very big. So it's neat to see some of these spaceships sitting next to a city like New York. Anyway, I'll quit talking about that. And I watched another mini movie. It was kind of good. Well, I don't know if it's good, but it was interesting about a Kickstarter that's going right now. I'm going to go look at how much the Kickstarter's up to. So it's that little dog that they make from Boston Robotics or something, where it's like a robot dog and the army's always kicking it and putting stuff on it. Like it carries stuff around.
Yeah.
You can't get over. And it's the creepy dog looking one, not some of the other ones. So it's got like the weird legs that, it walks like a dog and stuff. Anyway, so this guy's doing a Kickstarter now. I'm clicking on it. And it is got 5 days to go. It is at $481,000. It originally needed $50,000, but it went however many, what is that? Almost 100% over 1,000% over its goal, going to $500,000 with 1,700 backers. So barely 2,000 backers for one of them little dog robots that's the size that fits in your hand. And it curls up, like these dog robots kind of curl their legs up, and this one curls its head and its legs all up. And if it's just laying on the ground, you step on it, it doesn't break it. So it's pretty strong. And they just make all the little parts or whatever. It's got like a little dog head. It basically looks exactly like the fucker from Boston Robotics, or what it's called, except that I think it just walks around with a Raspberry Pi in its guts. And then it's like a cell phone battery in its belly, or on its back, I guess, and then a Raspberry Pi in its belly, and then he's like creepy legs. But it can do all kinds of crazy, creepy shit. It can look at stuff. It can follow you. It can like not fall off of stuff. If it goes walking towards the edge of the desk, it'll stop and know where it's at and look around. So you can make it do stuff because it's one of these little hobby things. So you can kind of program it to do tasks or whatever. So let's see, it's $225 to get the whole kit, or the elements of it are available. So if you've got like something else, but you want to add the ability for like sight recognition or visual recognition, or the like AI weirdness that makes it so that it won't fall over, or that once it fall overs, it flips back over. You can buy all those individual pieces for like $50 a piece. So it's a really interesting campaign, and probably because I follow stuff like that, YouTube decided to show it to me. So I seen it as a video and then followed it over to Kickstarter. Just happened to see it here a couple of days. I just saw it, I think, for the first time today, a couple of days before it actually ends. But yeah, if these things are $200 and as creepy and as powerful as this little fucker is, and it can carry, they've got little videos of it carrying stacks of weights though, so it can carry some weight. It's carrying a pound. So a little tiny thing, a little dog the size of your hand can walk around with a pound in it under its belly, like walking around with a payload. Who knows what they're going to be able to do 4 years from now, 3 years from now, 2 years from now? Is it $200? So swarms and hives and little things like this. I don't know how much it would take to take something that's small like this and made out of plastic and a couple of springs and attach wings to it. And now it's a flying little creepy drone that walks around also. Plus the experience that these people are getting producing it in mass to where it only costs $200 to get a creepy dog robot that's the size of your hand, or that fits in your hand, I guess. And then, of course, all the people that are getting an experience running around with $200 creepy dog. I mean, they're more than remote controlled dogs, they're little creepy robots with AIs and stuff. So the craziness that people are doing with AIs already, now they're just making it more and more mobile, basically. So stay tuned for that. You can all worry about whatever the news is supposed to be making you fear, or you can worry about tiny robots that are going to be popping out all over, funded to the $2.5 million by 2,000 people. What if those are 2,000 people that want to see Skynet take over? There could be 2,000 humans under this whole planet that want to see us all just become carbon. Well, these don't necessarily need to be nanites, but I'll bet you could. Oh, there's a freaking transformer thing on here, or a Decepticon. Oh, it's out there walking in the snow. It's creepy when they make these robot dogs walk around with no heads on them, because they can walk either way that way. They don't really have, probably don't even have eyes. They just, brains, or what am I trying to say? They only have sensors. Probably don't need necks and heads and shit unless you need them to have it. Anyway, they're coming out of Pennsylvania, so thanks, Pennsylvania. But yeah, you can buy each of the parts basically for $20 to $30, and then the whole set for $225. And I mean, if they were ready to go at $10,000, I'm guessing it'll just be, at $50,000, they would, they're just going to be even more capable. They already started their first little creepy robot, was a little creepy robot cat made out of wood, where they like laser burned a bunch of thin wood and used that to make the robot out of. This one is a bunch of plastic, like they figured out how to make plastic as efficient as possible. And then there's like videos in here where they show the production of those pieces of plastic. So they're definitely going the route of high impact plastic, injection molded under heat pressure, which creates a plastic that's way stronger than that shitty wood was. So that's why you can step on this fucker. Basically, it just all folds up so tight that you're always standing on all of it, I guess. You're never really just stepping on one leg. It always folds up under itself. Anyway, so you can buy the guts, you can buy the brains, you can buy the muscles, you can buy the gyros or whatever you call that, you can buy the cameras, you can buy all these pieces separately. So it's crazy scary that they're effectively making Skynet modular and allowing people to add just little components of Skynet to their existing projects for like $50 a pop. So we got that to look forward to. Oh, quite a few interesting things on Kickstarter that I was looking around on there today. Pelosi, Nancy Pelosi and Dr. Fauci action figures. It's a joke. Ugh. They wanted $15,000 to do a Nancy Pelosi action figure, and it's Nancy Pelosi in a pink dress with like a mask on, and it's flattering. It's not like a joke thing, and it's not like a bobblehead. It's more like a superhero action figure or something. Just the shoulders move and the waist. These are imperfect times, but they still could be worse. Imagine a parallel universe where everything is exactly the same, except there is no Nancy Pelosi to act as a check on power. Kind of terrifying, right? Pelosi has basically been leading the resistance last few years. She's one person standing between us and unfettered lunacy. A tiny atlas bearing the weight of the world on her shoulders. We should probably thank her. Dear Nancy Pelosi, in a year filled with crap, you gave us reason to hope. Somehow you even made us laugh while doing it. We needed that. Thanks. The resistance. So then they got this Nancy Pelosi action figure, and it's like, sees through all the lies, thinks 5 moves ahead. What does it say? Mysterious mace transmits messages. I don't know what that's supposed to be. Armed with polysyllabic words. It says, speaker's gavel brings order. She's got a little hammer in her hand. It looks like a bong. Gold bracelets dazzle enemies. And it says, clapping hand shreds paper too. And then it says, does it all in high heels, because she has high heels on, because she's a feminist, but she's also wearing high heels to appeal to the misogynist, right? Is that how it works? But she does have elbows, so sorry, she has both shoulders and elbows. No waist, though, no leg movement. The real-life action figures are actually tiny works of pop art. They're designed by some dumbass, a Seattle-based artist who has spent the last 20 years mastering the craft of sculpted caricature. So he's been making little dolls for 20 years out of clay. His work, which has been shown in galleries around the world, uses the action figure format to explore and comment upon who we idolize in contemporary culture and how we do it. Like Prince, these action figures are simply reproductions of his pieces. It just so happens that kids like to play with them too. Would you give your kid a Nancy Pelosi action figure? It's scary. So she's got some kind of weird mouth thing going on. So it says, flattening the curve. As far as we know, Nancy Pelosi is the first and only action figure to come equipped with a PPE. I guess that means putting a fucking mask on. The Pelosi action figure has already been sculpted and prototyped. She's basically ready to go. We need a little help from you to get it over the finish line and produce the first run.
But this is completely inaccurate because Nancy Pelosi wasn't wearing a mask when she went and got that haircut. That was what all the drama was about.
When she fights Trump, she was fooled, man. She was fooled. They got her. But when she fights Trump, she wears a mask. So then you can get, and now it comes with a Dr. Fauci. So our goal was to raise 15 grand in order to make a Pelosi. We wound up hitting almost 5 times over, which means we've needed more than we needed. So we're going to make a Dr. Fauci action figure. And yeah, it looks like a little figure of that dude. So these look like something between a Barbie and an action figure. So what their idea of an action figure is dumb as shit because it's not even an action figure at all, as much as it's a gross, like the Barbie that doesn't have its clothes come off, which no one is asking for its clothes to come off.
You sure about that, G?
they're only $20. You can get them in pink or in blue, and then you can get a Fauci in one color. And
If we can get an orange Donald Trump one, I would probably consider it.
I'm sure there's a Donald Trump one, but this is definitely not from these people.
Then we can just make them fight each other.
But these are $20 a pop. So pledge your lottery word for 10. Whatever color dress, it's $20. And let's see, if you select this one, it's $20 plus $5 shipping, which isn't really that bad considering it's going to cost them more than $5 to ship these, I bet. But actually, it might not because they're probably going to put it in some kind of fucking box or whatever. So anyway, they've raised $175,000 from 5,000 people. So that's a lot of money. Let me go to, I don't know, should we keep going? It's an hour and a half. There's only the three of us, I think, in here anymore. Like I say, I'll threaten everybody again. If you're not active, then we'll end it. I can do other stuff. Like I say, I drank a chocolate energy chocolate earlier, so I could be using this productive time here. But now I'm just thinking around in Kickstarter, trying to figure out how to make it tell me the ones that there's a way to there's a way to get it to tell you the ones that are about to end or that are ending or something. Nearly funded, maybe that's the one. So all categories projects on Earth, let's change that to United States, that are 75 to 100% raised, sorted by end date. I always do it this, I don't always do it this way. Sometimes I do it this way to see, what isn't quite there. Because it's interesting to see stuff that's already well funded, but it's already well funded. I like to look at the stuff sometimes that hasn't made it yet. In case there's something, if I could throw $5 at it and they can help them move a little further or get somebody else to say, get some momentum going, then that's always kind of fun. That's the fun part about these things. But I'm not seeing anything all that interesting this time. Some kind of weird plushy thing, some sort of weird glass thing to put on your phone case. Stupid vegan shirts that are stupid looking. Some kind of pet monster book. How many Kickstarters? I've done like 5 Kickstarters, but only 3 of them or 2 of them have been successful. Kickstarters, you try to do the bigger stuff over there. But then I don't think I've done patches over there. So I probably could have done the patch over there to test it out. But on the other one, Indiegogo, I think I'm up to 35 or something like that altogether. They're not all successful. And sometimes I've done a couple that they'll still count, I think, where you start it and it just, I end it basically. There's a couple that I've ended and then a couple only 9% funded, at all during the whole time. So they still are there, but they're not all necessarily fully funded and successful campaigns. But I still consider a non-funded one a success usually because you learn stuff no matter what. Or you can learn stuff no matter what. And I guess I'm a little distracted. I'm just scrolling through. There's a lot of different stuff up here, for sure. I don't go to Kickstarter as much as Indiegogo. A lot of books and movies on Kickstarter. And they don't do a very good job. A lot of them, they just have a picture that they think is cool, but it doesn't tell you anything about what the project is or anything. So they expect you to read something or to click on something. And the way that Kickstarter presents it, there's no incentive to click on it if you don't know what it is. So I'm not doing that. Like I say, I don't think the one is necessarily better. I think it's more of an audience thing. If you've got something, if I had something with playing cards, I would definitely do it on Kickstarter because I think that's, at least in my experience, that's where most of the playing cards are done. So that's where most of that audience But I don't know. I think if I was going to do a movie or something, I would definitely do it on Kickstarter over Indiegogo. If I was going to do something like a machine or a technical thing, like a gizmo, I would do it on Kickstarter for sure. I tend to do it on Indiegogo because of I don't do campaigns that are sure things, and I don't do campaigns that always need to fund all the way. It'd be nice if they did, but if only 4 people participate, it's still better than having nobody participate. So on Indiegogo, it lets me, if it's that kind of campaign, it allowed me to let just a few people participate. Kickstarter, you have to, everybody has to, or the campaign has to finish. There is no almost finished on Kickstarter. Way more people on Kickstarter, though, I think. Oh, there was one of those things I looked at that put everything in scale. That was the size of companies, and that was pretty neat. Seeing how big Google is compared to other stuff, and one of the reasons I think that place is communist because of what they chose to compare everything to, but not as big as you'd think. I mean, definitely not as big. It's not the biggest company or anything. All right, well, I'm definitely distracted, so I can sit here looking at these Kickstarter things all day. They're more and more interesting as I go along. I've only ever contributed to projects on both platforms. You mean projects that are on both platforms at the same time? I was trying to say. All right, well, it's just DJ. You can just jump in here. And we just go off here and get some work done. Now it's feeding me robot videos. I think YouTube.
There you go.
No, I don't want to watch that kind of stuff. I'm trying to get work done. Oh, now lifetime carbon neutral. Yeah, so now every ad I get is going to be about carbon crap. I watched that video twice, so that's freaking the logarithm out. Or maybe more than twice because I looked at it a long time. Oh, that's creepy as hell. 5 amazing bionic robots. So this one is basically like a fluke, whatever that fish is called. That's creepy as hell. And it just swims through pipes, I guess. Looking for something or cleaning maybe. Oh yeah, that's super creepy. But I guess it makes sense. Send some robot fish down the sewers to keep things clean and messed with and watched or maintained or whatever. Giant robot spider. Oh, that's interesting. It's a robot spider, but then its legs kind of articulate into 2 big wheels. So it kind of looks like a TIE fighter. It walks around like a spider, but then it can configure its legs into these 2 big wheels, I guess. And then I guess roll that way. Can't imagine how it rolls that way. Oh, I bet you the whole damn thing rolls. Like if you made a TIE fighter's wings or whatever they're called out of round and then just rolled it down a hill. I think that's how this thing rolls. Like it literally rolls head over heels, I bet. All right, well, let me see. I'll be watching robots all night if I start watching these clickbait robot videos. Oh yeah, that's crazy. And then it uses its 2 other legs to kind of steer it as it's rolling. And then we got some kind of bird AI. That won't be too long before, if they can master putting robots in the air with bird wings, and then they make the bird wings out of, what do they call it? Solar panel, then that's a bird drone that can just stay up there until they decide to take it down. That's basically what this looks like. I don't know if it's wings or solar panels. But yep, it just flew right out the damn door, and now it's flying up to the top of the building. So they just let that drone go. Oh, and then here you got a bionic kangaroo jumping around. That's what everybody wants. That doesn't make any sense. Why you want a robot jumping? Yeah, that makes no sense. You're not going to have like a kangaroo bring you something. It's going to be all shook up by the time it brings it to you. Holy moly, these are butterflies. How big are they? Yep, they basically have little robot butterflies that are almost the exact same size as a butterfly. But they're little robots. They're just gliding around doing robot crap. Oh, I think I've seen them before. I didn't realize they were that small though. All right, well, I guess that's it. DJ's out of here. Great night. Safe this weekend. See you on Monday. Same with you. I don't know if nobody else is out there according to the robots, but if you're listening to this in the future, feel free to jump in anytime, be part of the show. I got to have his microphone and something to talk about. And you're welcome to jump in. We're not like the other shows where we cower behind scripts and sales banners and routines and tradition. We cut new ground, and you can be part of it by joining in, like Barbecue did, or like other people have done in the past. Anyway, you want to plug anything on the way out?
Oh, I guess I could say, hey, it's October 3rd, which is Guns and Barbecue's birthday. So if anybody wants to get him something over at the Gear website store, just leave in the special comments, for Barbecue's birthday, so G-Webs knows.
There you go. That's the thing you could do. You can. People can do that. There's that comment thing. I didn't know where the comment thing was until I looked at it one day. I'm like, oh, damn, this whole big, like, the comment thing. It just doesn't have a fancy border around it, I guess.
Tonight was the first night I ever noticed it.
Yeah, I never noticed it. It just looks like a kind of a square there. It's like a brown, for me, it's like a brown square. So, but I knew people had been leaving comments. So I just never paid attention. I was checking to see if the thing, the rally flag was working or whatever. So I stuck it in the cart. That's when I noticed it. So anyway, yeah, I put up the thing for Gary's chat earlier. So if anybody takes me up on that, feel free. Otherwise, I guess Nice Streak just jumped in. You want to plug anything before we head out of here?
Check out guntube.org.
I know, literally jumped in as we were shutting it down. But yeah, we'll be back sometime in the near future here, and we'll be back to pick up later.
Were we getting corked this